New Ross, Irish, Rosmictruin, formerly Rosmictruoin, is a town in southwest County Wexford, Ireland. It is located on the River Barrow, near the border with County Kilkenny, and is around 20 kilometers northeast of Waterford. In 2011 it had a population of over 9,316 people, making it the third largest town in the county after Wexford and Enniscorthy. The port town of New Ross dates from pre-Middle Ages. The earliest settlement in this area dates back to the 6th century when Streethaban of Magarinoi founded a monastery in what is now the Irish town. The original earthen bank circular enclosure of his monastery was visible around the graveyard until about 10 years ago when it was ceremoniously removed by the council. It has been replaced by a concrete wall and steel fence. Its name, Ros, was shortened from Rosmictruoin, or the wood of the son of Astley. Little is known of the town in pre-Norman times, except for the writings of Streethaban, who lived in the late 6th century. He founded of a monastic settlement, which lies under the present-day St. Stephen's Cemetery in the Irish town. New Ross was in the territory of Dermot McMurrough and came to prominence when the Anglo-Normans conquered the region. The Norman knight William Marshal and his bride Isabel de Clare arrived during the early part of the 13th century. An earthen defensive structure called a motte was quickly built at Old Ross in order to hold the newly conquered territory. A medieval borough sprung up around it, peopled by English and Welsh settlers. William later founded the port town down by the river, leaving the native Irish living around the monastery up the hill. Isabella was the only child of Strongbow who was married to Oife, daughter of Dermot McMurrough, King of Leinster. The arrival of Isabella and William is described in the Chronicles of Ross, which are in the British Museum. It records that in 1189, Isabella set about building a lovely city on the banks of the Barrow. The town's fortunes further increased when King John made William Earl of Pembroke at his condemnation in 1199. A year later, the Earl Marshal transferred the Norman capital of Leinster to Kilkenny and New Ross became the main port. The town grew around the bridge built by William Marshal, son-in-law of Richard de Clare, 2nd Earl of Pembroke, Strongbow, and a leader of the Norman invasion of Ireland. The town of New Ross, the town of the New Bridge, was granted a royal charter in 1207. New Ross has to date, 2013, a total of 7 bridges. The first being a mere pontoon, ferrying both persons, goods and chattel across the River Barrow. The port gained concessions from King John in 1215 and again in 1227, but these were later revoked by Henry III and Edward I to protect the port of Waterford. Even with these retardations, New Ross was Ireland's busiest port in the 13th century. These restrictions were lifted in the 14th century by Edward II and Edward III. The needs of citizens were not forgotten and a great church, St. Mary's Abbey, was erected which was to become one of the largest churches in Ireland. St. Mary's Church, commonly called St. Mary's Abbey, Church of Ireland, was built in 1811 on the site of the nave of the abbey. A friary was built in Friary Lane during the medieval period but no trace of it survives above ground these days. A religious-run lepers' hospital was established in the Magdalens in the later Middle Ages but this has recently been removed. There are 2 Roman Catholic churches, both built in the 9th century. These are the parish church of St. Michael and St. Mary, and the Augustinian church. The town was fought over in the Irish Confederate Wars of the 1640s. In 1643, the town resisted the siege by James Butler, 1st Duke of Ormond, who fought a battle near the town with an Irish army under Thomas Preston, 1st Viscount Tara. However, it was later taken by Oliver Cromwell, during the Cromwellian conquest of Ireland in 1649, who discharged 3 cannon shots at the Aldgate, and thereafter it was known as the Three-Bullet Gate. The Three-Bullet Gate is referenced in several Irish ballads, as the Burn of Oil, Gap of Danger, such as Kelly the Boy from Killan, and most notably in the Irish national anthem. The town is a geographically important crossing point, cited where it is on the River Barrow due to it being located between the river estuary to the south and the point where the River Nore joins the Barrow to the north. It was the location of one of the bloodiest battles of the 1798 rebellion. During this rebellion, a fierce and decisive battle took place in New Ross on 5 June between the Irish rebels and the British forces. The poorly armed rebels captured most of the town by weight of numbers and drove out the defending soldiers. The soldiers returned later in the day and recaptured the town. Over 2,000 people died during the battle and most of the thatched markets were burned. The 18th and 19th centuries were pompous times for New Ross with the colonization of North America. Local merchants sailed their own ships back and forth to the colonies, often carrying Irish immigrants. A replica of one of those ships, the Dunbrody, is now berthed on the quay in New Ross and offers visitors to the ship an insight into life as a passenger during the late 19th century. Over the years, 7 bridges have spanned the River Barrow to connect the port of New Ross with its neighbours in Rosbricon. However, at various stages down through the centuries, the bridges collapsed due to neglect or were destroyed by armies. 3. During the times when the town was without a bridge, a ferry service or passage was maintained between both shores, and this kept the military and economic ties with Waterford open.